Now, my honor to introduce our first speaker, Klaudia Dussa-Zieger, the president of ISTQB. ISTQB started looking into AI research in 2019 and launched the development of a certified tester syllabus for AI testing. Would be interesting to know more about this product, the development of it, and overall ISTQB attitude toward AI. Also, I should mention that Klaudia just recently became the president of ISTQB, the world's best known software testing certification scheme. And my sincere congratulations to Klaudia on this amazing achievement. And I think now we can start the first speech. Klaudia, you can start.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's a great honor for me to speak in your webinar, and I'm very happy to be here. I hope I'm not here because I was the elected ISTQB president, but because I was actually heading the group, the task force that was developing the AI testing syllabus. And this is actually a topic that is very close to my heart. So I think it is important. And I would just like to take you on the journey, what we did and how we went along with it. So ISTQB goes AI. I know that you all know ISTQB. Just bear with me for a few seconds to get you into the vision and mission why we're trying to work on new topics. So ISTQB is here to enhance, to improve, to advance the software profession. And our mission is really to define and maintain a body of knowledge so that all testers can participate and use these knowledge. So working on the body of knowledge, incorporating new ideas is definitely part of ISTQB. It's part of the vision. And if we go one step further, we have 10 mission statements. And even in the mission statements, we state that we need to work on the testing body of knowledge. And for me, also important, number 8, we need to work together. ISTQB is not the only group of testers in the world. There are a lot of smart people out there, and we need to work together. And that's actually what we did. What we also do is that every now and then ISTQB runs surveys roughly every 4 to 5 years. And to my knowledge, our marketing group is currently preparing the next survey. But this are what you see on the screen are the survey results from the last survey from 2017 and 18. And one of the questions was, what new technologies will be important for testing in the next 5 years? And you can see on the top is security. We already have a security syllabus, but the next most important topic was artificial intelligence in general. And then if we go further down, even machine learning as a more specific topic, but artificial intelligence was in there. So we decided we need to look into that. So then 2019, we really started approaching this area. That AI is evolving, and Natya already said it beautifully, and I really very much enjoyed your little movie thing. We already had lots of examples there. AI is already there. Medical diagnosis, production systems, logistics, predictive maintenance, also a very interesting topic. Autonomous driving for sure, classifications of objects for sure. Recommender systems in web shops or voice recognition. These are applications that already all include a lot of AI. So lots of areas all around us. This is, I think, evident. And if you look onto numbers, this is from a source from LearnBonds, where they did a prognosis and estimate how much revenue will be spent on AI. And it only goes up to 2025, but we're talking about 120 billions of US dollars. So there is definitely a market for AI, and there will be a lot of applications, a lot of products. And of course, there will be testing that will be needed for AI systems. And even if we go one step further and look how AI might affect testing, there are some studies out there, and I would like to show you a study coming from Gartner from about 1.5 years ago. I just found it Christmas, a year ago, just briefly, just before Christmas, and they did an analysis and said we see different phases of testing, from the very first manual testing done almost 40 years ago over starting then with test automation, with simple test automation, with automation frameworks, then DevOps, continuous testing came along. And what they see right now is that we are in the area of AI augmented system. So it's not only that we have lots of applications that are based on AI, or at least have an AI component. They also see, of course, that AI will help us with the testing, given the fact that the systems will be getting more complex, that the time to delivery will get shorter. We need to get more efficient. We need to increase the efficacy of testing. So AI augmented testing will come. Starting from this point, I think AI is a valid topic. And it is interesting to see, I always like to start from the roots. So it is interesting to see that AI is nothing really brand new. AI the term was coined more than 70 years ago. And also back then, they started to work on AI. Back then in the 1940s, 50s, they started with simple things like the modeling of one neuron. Yeah, how can you model a neuron with a mathematical function? You have inputs, you have a threshold, you have an activation functions. So how can you do that? That was one part. And the other part goes into the direction of mathematical modeling and deduction logic. And this actually goes into the areas of symbolic and sub-symbolic AI. So either you try to incorporate all the knowledge into rules and then deduce the correct steps, or if you go into sub-symbolic, you try to model the human brain and come up with ways how we as humans think and deduce things. So starting in the 1940s, we already had that later on. From one neuron, we moved away to large neural networks and we got to automatic deduction systems. We went so far that we really had knowledge-based systems. As I said, I really enjoyed your little movie very much. We have software, which was back then considered AI, which did beat a chess grandmaster. I think 2 or 3 years ago, we had a software, an AI-based software that did beat a Go master. So we are working on that. And also the increases in the statistical algorithms and the mathematical modelings, that is really improving. In between, you can see that in between, AI went down and up and down. So they are talking about having some ice ages in between. And I can tell from my personal university here in Erlangen, where I studied, around 2000, they even closed down the AI chair because there was no funding for that anymore. And now we are back. We have a huge success of machine learning. And machine learning is just one part of AI. And I think that is important to know. If we go into the newspapers, if we look into the applications, most of the AI-based applications are machine learning due to the advances in the statistical learning methods. And from my point of view, the most important 2 points are actually that we really have very cheap hardware. So you have either graphical processing units, TPUs, or tensor processing units, where you can do a lot of these calculations from the neurons or of the neurons on the hardware, which is really cheap. And the second is we have lots of data. So we can do things now, which we couldn't do 10, 15, 20 years ago. And just to conclude my little example with my university here in Erlangen, now we have 12 or 13 chairs for AI, even specifically for machine learning and machine learning in different domains. So ML, machine learning, is the hot topic right now. Not all of the AI tools are using it, but the most part. And I think we as a tester should know that AI is not equal to machine learning, but it is a subpart, which is very, very hip right now. So this was the starting point. We looked around and gathered some information, or gathered people that would be interested. And this is actually the point where we started at ISTQB. 3 different groups were working on that topic already in 2019. We had a group which comes from the corner of A4Q, which is Alliance for Qualifications. These were some of the European-based testing boards. Then we had a group around Artificial Intelligence United. These were grouped around the Indian testing board. And then we had a third group that was specifically dedicated or managed, or yeah, of the Korean board and the Chinese board, and they came up with a third testing syllabus. And all three of them were published, were really developed independently and were published September, October 2019. And then we said, it doesn't make any sense to have three syllabi in parallel. We need to combine our knowledge. We need to come together. And this is when we said, we're going to collaborate. We're going to join efforts, put all the knowledge that is in the three syllabi together, and then create a certified tester AI testing under the ISTQB label. And that is what we did. And I had the honor and the pleasure to actually guide this exercise or guide the development. And it was a lot of hard work, I can tell you. So 2019, we came together at the GA in fall and decided we want to do that. And the actual work really did 2020 in January. We started with the business objectives. What do we really try to achieve with this syllabus? What is the candidate supposed to learn, the tester supposed to learn once we go through that? And we had a total of 169 learning objectives and 16 hands-on objectives, which we had to merge. And you can really see it here. It was a pretty simple exercise. You have the three columns in the Excel sheet for the three different syllabi. We did that with all their learning objectives, and we went through every one. We went through every line in the Excel sheet, discussed if we should keep it, if we should remove it, if it would be worth being in there or not, if we had some wording glitches, some terminology glitches, that we actually really moved it together. And at the very end, we all agreed on the syllabus we have right now. You can see that the focus or the emphasis of the different syllabi varies. So here we have a large portion in the first one, where the third one has very little, and it's also vice versa. So at the beginning, the third one has more, and the other one has more. So it was really a lot of technical negotiations. What do we need to keep? What do we want to give to the customer? What should be in there? And at the very end, after all this work, we came up that we will have three different blocks. The first block will be to give the candidate an introduction to AI, definitely with the focus on machine learning. So that was the very first part, which is roughly 1/3 of the syllabus. Then the second part deals with testing AI. So how do you test AI-based systems? And then we said, one group was particularly keen on that. He said, okay, we also need to, at least to give an idea of how do we test with AI? How does AI support us during testing? And this is the structure. We have three major blocks. Altogether, we have 11 chapters, but we have three major blocks. One focuses on giving you an introduction to AI. The second block focuses on how you could test it. How would you approach it? What different techniques do we have? And the third one is actually how could you use AI for testing? So the syllabus altogether was released in 2021, which is now 1.5 years. And it came up to a 4-day training with some hands-on exercise. We introduced hands-on exercise to force the training provider really to work with tools and actually let the candidates experience how neural networks work, how you need to work with data in order to improve it, what overfitting, what underfitting is. So we do have a syllabus that, from my point of view, is very, very comprehensive. And I will walk through the content because I think here it's a little bit overwhelming. And I'm just going to focus on the part that are the most interesting for me. So it's not a complete introduction. It's just like some highlights, what I think, what is really important. So the first part, remember, was introduction to AI. And there we start with terminology. We didn't, Nadia and I, we didn't talk about, or she didn't tell me that she's going to do a poll what the AI effect is, but you need to understand what the AI effect is. You need to understand what narrow AI is, what super AI is. So we really start out with AI terminology so that we all have a common understanding. We also discuss a little bit what is human intelligence and what is artificial intelligence, but that is another story. That perhaps is more for the coffee break. So in the introduction, we have the terminology issue. Then we briefly just give you an impression that AI is not only machine learning, but also reasoning techniques, also search algorithms. And it will be briefly, just very, very briefly listed. And then we decided against some other opinions, we decided to actually give and have some examples in the syllabus. So if you are looking for an AI development framework, you will find some examples there. Most of them are open source systems like scikit-learn, where you can, which is Python based, where you can actually do and experience some AI, or PyTorch or Keras. So you will actually find some names. And this holds for the development frameworks and also for the hardware, so that you can get an impression that the GPUs, TPUs really play an important role. So this is the very first step, just to get a basic understanding what is AI, and then also get some examples what is currently on the market. The second part of the introduction is that the syllabus focuses on the quality characteristics. There are some specific characteristics that are different for AI-based systems than for what I would call traditional systems. If we're talking about self-learning systems that adapt to new environments, you have to test that differently. So you need to be aware that these systems have these characteristics. So characteristics like flexibility, autonomy, then bias towards particular groups of people or towards particular situations. Then the topic of ethics, yeah. If an AI system decides where to go, how to drive, you need to take care of the ethics. Is it ethical to make this decision or that decision? Transparency, to increase the trust into an AI system. Transparency is a point. You need at least to have a global idea how it works. So we will discuss that so that the people, that the candidates or your colleagues in the training understand what actually the characteristics are and where some problems may come from or some challenges actually come from. We will also discuss, or it is also discussed, that we have reward hacking. So how can you attack the system? And we will talk about safety and AI, since autonomous driving was already, since AI is used in autonomous driving for a long time. So that's also a small part. After the characteristics, we will definitely, or the focus is definitely on machine learning. So we will talk about the different ways how you can learn. We had it also in your little video that we were talking about reinforcement learning, and there are other types. So we will introduce supervised learning, unsupervised learning, reinforcement learning, and then we developed an ML workflow. And this is the graph that you see on the slide right now. So we started from the objectives, from selecting an appropriate AI framework to selecting the algorithm, how you want to learn, then actually train the model, tune the model, and then also test it and then deploy it, integrate it perhaps into a larger system and use the model, and again go through the tuning phase. This entire workflow, I think, is one of the pearls, one of the gems in this syllabus, because it really describes the steps, the different steps in greater detail, and then also hooks in the testing levels. So when we go through the workflow later on in the chapter on how we would test such a system, you can also see that we have the different test levels where we can approach and look at different aspects. So the ML workflow is one of the core pieces of the syllabus. And in that context, we also discuss overfitting and underfitting. Something that I learned 2 years ago, that with this machine learning, of course, the data is essential. It's the crucial part. And we cannot wait with testing until the entire model has the chance to learn. We need to look at the data earlier on. We need to do quality assurance on the data. We need to make sure that it is of sufficient quality, that it's hopefully not biased, that everything is complete. So data preparation, data augmentation, Also, data labeling, if we do supervised learning, that is something that you need to be aware of when you're dealing with the development of an AI-based system and you want to do quality assurance and test there. The distinction between the data that you use for the training, the data that you use for the validation, the data that you use for testing. What is it? How is it distinct? Should there be an overlap? Should there not be an overlap? How many data do you have? So these are all topics that will be discussed. And from my point of view, when we're looking at testing an AI-based system, some of the effort also needs to go to quality assurance of the data. We need to start from the very beginning and make sure that the data is correct. The quality of the data definitely influences the quality of the final result or the output of your AI-based system. So we need to look there. So machine learning data, how you need to deal with it, how you can work with it, how it needs to split up, what quality issues are there, is also a part of the syllabus. And then we come into the beautiful metrics. Yeah, we coined a new term. We wanted to call it performance metrics, but performance typically is associated with runtime behavior and stuff like that. And this is not what we're talking about. We really want to get an indication how the AI-based component, in this particular case, the ML component really works, if it works good or not. So it's about the functional performance. And we started from the confusion matrix, which you see on the screen, and then we describe different metrics like accuracy, precision, the recall, the F1 score, and even some more. We give examples for metrics for classification, for regression, for clustering, and then we discuss also some limitations and what you would use when, so the selection topic. So it's not only the development from the machine ML for the machine learning workflow, but also how could you, and the data is the next step, but also how could you measure whether it's really working or not? Do you achieve the accuracy that you want to have or not? The last point of the introduction are neural networks. Neural networks altogether, what is it? What is the idea behind a neural network? What is a deep neural network? How does the activation function work? And here we're slowly starting to merge or drift into the testing of AI-based systems, because on the basis of the neural network, you could already start with what we call white box coverage techniques or white box techniques and cover, for example, neurons. We could cover thresholds, we could cover sign changes, sign coverage. So if you have a neural network and you really are able to get to the network, so you're not using a pre-trained model, but you're developing one on yourself, you could start to think if you want to use these white box techniques for the testing process. So what is a neural network? How does it look like? What is an input layer, a hidden layer, and so on will be discussed in this last part. And you can see, because we're already talking about testing here, that we're now moving to the second part. In the second part, the focus is really on how would you go along to test such systems. And following the machine learning workflow, we really look at the different steps where we could integrate the testing. So we have an input data testing at the very beginning, an ML model testing, then a component testing, and so on. So we define different test levels. And in connection with the test levels, we also looked at test data. And then we're discussing a number of topics which are particular to AI-based systems or ML systems. For example, concept drift. If you have a data set, let's say you have data how people are moving to work and from work from the time before Corona, and you learned on that basis, and now you're still trying to apply it in the time of Corona, where the working place has definitely shifted, and a lot of people are staying at home. So we have home office. It doesn't work anymore. We have a concept drift here. The underlying assumptions are not valid anymore. How do you detect that? How could you test for that? Or how could you test for bias, for automation bias in general, but also automation bias? So there are a number of aspects that are really particular to AI-based systems that we're looking for. We also look at the challenges that come from the particular characteristics. So we're discussing how are you testing autonomous systems? How are you testing self-learning systems? What challenges do you have there? Are your test cases also self-learning? Can you adapt them? We look at the fact that AI-based systems are typically or are not probable, are non-deterministic, so we have probabilistic systems. So how do you deal with that? How do you come up with test cases for that? We are looking into bias, different types of bias, whether it's a sample bias or an algorithmic bias. That will be discussed because that is a topic for AI-based systems. And also, of course, test oracles. How do you say that this test case will pass or not? How do you describe it? Will it be in percentage-wise, given some probabilities and stuff like that? So we will discuss, or not we will, the syllabus really discusses it and shows that we need to take care of the particular characteristics of an AI-based system and how you can deal with it. So this is a very interesting discussion, and I think we're also lots of interesting exercises are. Exercises are also connected to the methods that you could use. We have parts on adversarial attacks. We have parts on data poisoning, how with particular data sets, if your particular data, you can make your model predict in a completely different way. Then we will have a look at back-to-back testing in the context of AI-based systems. We will definitely look at metamorphic testing, which for me was a completely new technique to develop test cases. Back-to-back testing, I already know from the automotive domain. I do for the last 10 years, I have been doing projects in the automotive domain where you already have back-to-back testing, where you compare the testing stuff with the simulation stuff. So it is used there in a different context, and also pairwise testing is already known, but how do you apply them particular for the testing of AI-based systems? And as I said, metamorphic testing is new. Experience-based testing we already also know, but how is it applied in the context of AI-based systems? And here, this chapter, this section of the syllabus really deals with lots of exercises so that you can get hands-on experience how to deal with it. This is the second part. So it's how do you approach the entire thing? How do you take care of challenges coming from the different quality characteristics? And what are the methods and techniques that can be used for it? One part that is also going into part 2 is test environments. It's a smaller chapter, but how do you deal with test environments? Let's say you want to test autonomous systems and you need to simulate not only you have your system, but you need to simulate the road, you need to simulate the weather, you need to simulate the lighting. So how do you deal with this test environment? How do you build it up? Where do you get the sensor information? Where can you put the actor information? So typically the test environments for example, for autonomous system are quite complex. So this is also an interesting topic. Last but not least, part 3 is the use of AI for testing. There we have a small introduction, which techniques or which technologies you could actually have: classification, prediction, optimization. And then we decided to have a set of different areas where it is currently already used. So we have a section on analyzing defects. And I can tell from my personal experience with a customer, I already had my fingers on such a system. They have a database which has been growing historically. So we're talking about more than 100,000 defects that are reported there, and they're using AI to find duplicates. They're using some kind of term matching, so it's natural language processing, and they're trying to cluster the defects because nobody will ever no human person will look through more than 100,000 defects and analyze them and see if they can be clustered or if they're duplicates. So this is actually something that is in use and is a very, very sensible thing to do. AI for test case generation is something I have not yet seen that, but there are examples for that. Optimization of regression test suites is also a very hot topic, at least here in Germany, based on the changes done to the software, based on the previous data from previous test runs. The AI component gives you a prediction which test cases out of your huge regression test set should you pick, and in which order, in order to get the most defects out of it. This is very, very interesting and seems to work quite well once it learns sufficiently with your current data. So this is a very, very interesting topic, and it kind of goes along with defect prediction. There are also some systems that do defect prediction based on the current information on the coming of the development process and coming out of the testing process. And the usage of AI for testing interfaces, I think this is perhaps that is well known to you. This is when we're having systems that are able to learn if on a graphical user interface that a button has moved or has been slightly reworded, then these systems can learn these differences and are able to detect or classify that component that you can use it. So this is actually already used in some of the GUI tools. These are the examples we decided are already known and established. There are much more, but these are the ones we figured or we decided are worth discussing. These are, and this is just one part. So testing with AI actually is the smallest part. We are already discussing whether we should upgrade our syllabus because a lot of has changed. The material is from 2021. In 2021, nobody talked that much about AI as we're doing right now. The entire ChatGPT really pushed off a huge discussion. I don't know about Georgia and Sri Lanka, but definitely in Germany, you can find articles on AI almost every day in the newspaper. So we're discussing whether we should upgrade it and add some more information. Natural language processing, which ChatGPT is using, is mentioned in the syllabus, but it's not a specific topic, and definitely it's not used as ChatGPT is not used as an example for AI for testing. To wrap it up, the certified tester AI testing syllabus, in my opinion, and I hope it's not only because I was working on it, is an excellent introduction to AI. If you have no idea how it is working, you can get an overview. You will definitely not be an expert after one day, definitely not, but you will definitely know the key concepts, you will know the terminology, you will know what learning types there are, and so on. And you will also understand the machine learning workflow and how that works. So I think getting into the area of AI, this is not the worst you could do. I can tell because 3 years ago, I bought a lot of a lot of books. They're typically very thick because they cover all different aspects of AI. And I think here you have a very good short introduction into AI and into machine learning. Then the second part is that it really shows you or discusses the challenges that you have: self-learning, bias, ethics, flexibility, adaptability. So the stuff that you really need to take care of is discussed. We don't have a solution for everything, but at least we discuss it, and it's highlighted that you have particular characteristics that you need to take care of, which you didn't have before. End of story. And then, of course, we also give examples of new techniques. We show test techniques, and we also give examples on how AI can support the testing. The AI testing syllabus is the second ISTQB syllabus where we have a hands-on experiences. So the training providers are forced to actually give you tools to do some of the exercises so that you really get a hands-on feeling how it works. So it's a mechanism to make sure that you're not only doing paper and pencil exercises, but see how a system reacts. And I think that's also valuable. So from my point of view, it is a very good syllabus and really worth if you want to get into the area of AI. Since then, I mean, this is my summary slide. So Nadia, we could stop here. I just want to give you one more pointer because I'm also working in standards, and I know that for the foundation level, we're also working with quality models. Currently, there is already a technical report out and 29119 part 11, which deals with guidelines on testing of AI-based systems. This standard is pretty much in sync with our syllabus because the convener of that group that wrote the standard is one of our authors. So we're fine here. And currently in discussion, so draft international standard, which will publish, I hope, within the next 1 or 2 months, there is a quality model for AI-based systems, which will be released, hopefully, by summer. We couldn't use it because back then it was not ready yet, but it will come. And I hope that we then can perhaps rework some of the quality characteristics that we have in the introduction part. And just for your information, ISO-IEC has started with a new subcommittee just on AI, and some standards are to be expected there. So some stuff will be coming. In Europe, we have the AI regulation effort, which is going on. There are a lot of people that are concerned how AI rates credit lines, how AI does the autonomy, the decisions and autonomous driving. So there will be some standards that will have to be followed, perhaps also some certification, we will see. And last but not least, for the fun part, I am not concerned, honestly, I'm not concerned about the increase of AI. I think we will all keep our jobs. They will be different. I compare it to manual testing, to automated testing. When test automation came along, everybody was worried that testing will not be needed anymore. And that definitely is not true. So I think it will be pretty much the same also with AI. We will need to learn how to work with AI, how to take care of the quality. So I'm not concerned about the increase in artificial intelligence. I would be more concerned with the decrease in human intelligence. And that is the end of my presentation. Questions?
Thank you, Klaudia, very much. It was very interesting, as always. And by the way, the last slide was also very interesting that a lot of people ask and then have the same concern for the last time.
Oh, definitely. Transparency is an issue. Yes, definitely.
Yes, so now we have Q&A session, and I already see the questions in YouTube chat. So let me try to go one by one. So the first question goes, are there any plans to releasing an in-depth explanation book like Red Black's foundation of testing was the foundation level of ISTQB?
Yes, there are plans. 2 colleagues of mine are already working on it. Fair enough, we're starting with the German version that should be released also this fall. So it is coming. And I think once it's published, the translation will be the easier part. But yes, there are plans. And I hope within the next 6 months.
Nice. How many testers already took ISTQB AI certification?
Yeah, I was afraid that somebody would be asking that questions. I don't know. It has been released in fall 2021, and then people need to pick it up. So I would say it's about up and running for a year. I think we're still talking about low 3-digit numbers, but I don't have the exact numbers. Now, coming from a testing company, so we're just doing testing and QA, we have the training in our portfolio since last summer. And I can say that last year it was very, very slow. I think last year we had only 2 trainings, but this year we already have in-house trainings and more trainings. So it is picking up. It is picking up. I think it's a question of time that people realize that you have different challenges and that you need to look at it. But I will check the numbers, Nadia, and I can send it to you by the weekend, but I didn't, that question just popped in my head before the meeting. And I said, damn, I forgot to check that.
It's fine. Another question is like, could you please share if there is any plan of releasing certified tester AI testing version 1.1 in the nearest future? And thanks for the interesting session.
Thank you very much. We are discussing it. If we want to do it, I don't know how familiar you are with ISTQB procedures. If we want to do it, we have to ask permission from the member boards, from the General Assembly. And the plan is definitely not to start it this year, so perhaps next year. But we also promised to do it because we, against the suggestions, against the advice from some people, we added some examples for the environments, for the frameworks, for the hardware, and I think we need to update that. So I think next year we will start working on it.
Okay, how can we ensure that the ISTQB AI testing course will remain relevant and up to date as AI and machine learning technologies continue to rapidly evolve?
Yeah, that's exactly the point. We need to update it in regular intervals. If you have been following ISTQB, you may see that this is not happening to a lot of syllabi. We're currently working on Test Manager, where the last version is from 2012, and this is not what we want. So we're definitely not going to wait for 10 years, but we would at least give it 2 or 3 years, which would make a start next year. So I think we need, given the fact that the technology advances so fast, it's like spring, it's blooming now, it's popping everywhere. I think we need to update it. And my idea, or actually the answer is that we're going to do it in regular intervals. So it's not that there will be 2 versions. I would hope for that we have every 3 or 4 years that we have a new version, in the hope that it is less work than writing it from scratch. That we can just limit the work, but we need to keep it up to date and rework it, definitely. And it's not just to add GPT so that we have one more buzzword, but I think technology really has improved or has advanced.
Thank you. And another question, will there be a certified tester AI testing glossary?
There is already, there is. If you look in the syllabus at the very end, and I'll just double check when you did your little survey, how we define AI effect, there is a glossary of AI-based terms at the end of the syllabus. And AI effect there is defined as the situation where a previously labeled AI system is no longer considered to be AI as technology advances. So there is a glossary in there. The glossary has been in sync with the ISO standard. So we try to work with as many people as possible so that a lot of people have a common view what the terminology really is. So the AI-related terms are in the syllabus itself. The AI-related terms that are relevant to testing are in the ISTQB glossary. So either way, you can have a look at them.
Okay, thank you. You have mentioned AI 15 years ago. Can you give us a brief description of what AI was called in earlier ages?
Yeah, let me just go back perhaps here. No, that's too early. AI, back then, if you think of the system Deep Blue, that, for example, was using no machine learning, definitely not. It was rule-based systems that did beat the chess master. Or, for example, if you think of medical systems, they had expert systems where you could describe, like in your little video, where you could describe your symptoms and they would come up following the logic. They modeled the experts' know-how. If this and this and that, you could have like this automatic deduction system, then it would say you have a flu or you have malaria or whatsoever. So if you want to look at automatic deduction system, expert system, rule-based system, you will find a lot of old AI systems. Also, speech recognition, we already have ELISA was the name, where you could talk to an AI. So that has been, the ideas have been around for quite some time, but with the amount of data and with the amount of cheap hardware, it just exploded now, and we're mostly focusing, not all systems, but mostly focusing on machine learning. So yeah, if you go back, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff out there.
And I see also one comment in the Zoom platform as well. Interesting presentation. My main concern is about the security of data.
Yeah.
It has come into news that AI has been used for scam, etc. The way it can be misused is very scary. It would require a lot of work on safety before one may feel safe to use it for the use of personal data, such as medical history, etc.
Yeah. I think the safety and AI, just think of autonomous driving. In Germany, and I'm pretty sure all over in Europe, I'm not 100%, but definitely in Germany, you are only allowed to have autonomous driving level 3, where the driver still has the final decision where the car goes. Now in Asia, in China, that's not the case anymore. So we already have systems that are driving by themselves where safety is a concern. So parts of the safety relevant standards are already talking about that, and we definitely need to have a look at that. So that's one issue. The other issue is security, and security increased, cybersecurity increased of importance within the last 1 or 2 years. And in particular, again, with the availability of so cheap hardware, you can produce all these pictures, you can produce these fake pictures. And I think the best example is the apprehension of Trump, that he was grabbed by the police, which was a fake. So we will definitely have to look into ways how to determine whether it's a fake one or not a fake one. And I did a check with ChatGPT. There are already AI-based applications where you can feed in a text that's supposed to tell you with a certain probability, with a certain accuracy, whether it's a machine-generated text or not. And I think we will need something like that also for pictures or photographs, for text definitely, and the sensitivity of data. If you do data poisoning, if you can, by just adding some few malicious data set, if you can just steer the entire AI, an entire section, is also a topic of research. I mean, this is really, here we're getting to cutting edge of research. This is nothing, I think, where we already have solutions ready, but where we will definitely need to look at. Yeah, we will not run out of work. Definitely not.
Well, thank you very much. I think I don't see any other questions either in YouTube or in Zoom platform. So I would like to thank you very much, Klaudia, for your interesting presentation. It was really nice to listen all this information, and I wish you success.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for the good questions.
Thank you too.